we ask all listeners to gamble responsibly. Odds and tips mentioned in this podcast are personal opinions and used in reference of the Kindred brand. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Kindred Kick-Off Podcast. I'm your host today, Cem Metin, and I'm the channels and content lead for Kindred Group. Today, I'm joined with our panel of experts with Niklas, Louis, and Benji. They're going to run us through what they do in the organisation and also what they bring to the table.
So my name is Niklas. I work in a team called Product Business Delivery, helping with product development here at Kindred, disciplines such as business analysis and project management. Myself, I'm an avid sports fan, Premier League in particular, and also a punter aficionado.
Louis, I'm in the product marketing team on the Sportsbook side. We basically create go-to-market strategies for sales enablement across the marketing teams.
Benji, I work in the marketing project management team, basically running our bigger campaigns across our products, so Sportsbook, Casino, and others, big ticket items such as the World Cup and Euros and the big football games and so on. So happy to be here, quite a punter myself, looking to share some knowledge with you guys.
Fantastic. So we're going to kick things off with the Premier League predictions. So we've got a big season to cover, obviously. Man City have just come off a not historic, but the second team to win a treble. I won't need to remind everyone who the first team was. We're going to discuss who we think might win the Premier League this season. So who do you guys see anyone other than City? Who do you see posing the biggest threat to Man City?
I think Arsenal. They look good. They've improved on last year, and that's I think all you can do, and they were already challenging.
I think Arsenal had a great season last year. I think they overperformed to a degree. They did get a good recruitment, but they are playing Europe this year. Calendar is going to be a bit more demanding.
Mm-hmm.
They have the squad depth. That's City's main strength. They have world-class players, but it's essentially the squad depth to be able to compete across those. I would rank Arsenal quite high, but I kind of agree. It's going to be hard to take it from. It's for them to lose in a sense.
It'd be a historic fourth win on the bounce, which hasn't ever been done before. I kind of see the biggest threat being from Arsenal as well. I hate to say that. I've got a lot of Arsenal friends. They'll be giving me some stick if they hear this. I still think Arsenal lack a bit of firepower. We see Jesus get injured quite frequently. He had an injury last season, and he wasn't the same player afterwards. So I still think they lack a striker. I still think they lack a top goal scorer. But across the pitch, they've now got depth. They've got two players in each position. Liverpool are always going to be in and amongst it, although last season they weren't great. They've kind of had a bit of a clear out in midfield. Obviously, Louis, you can tell us a bit more about the Liverpool side of things. Where do you see it going this season?
There's a gaping hole in the middle there at the 6, right, with Fabinho gone. And I think they also struggled defensively at times last season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that needs to be addressed in the last 2 weeks of the transfer window.
Do you think someone like Lavia would potentially be the answer to that? He's only 19 years old. They were quite an easy team to play through last season.
Yeah, I think they were way too open last season. But I think it's the same with Liverpool, United, and I think even maybe Chelsea, that right now they're a bit behind, but they could all, buy some good players in the next couple of weeks and suddenly be amongst it. I think right now they're a bit behind Arsenal and particularly City, but it doesn't take much, and we've seen that in the past. And if you're looking at Chelsea, for example, they don't have any European football this season. Last time that happened, they won, right? So
it's kind of the same thing as well. It's a big hole in the midfield. Niklas had a look yesterday, and there are some young players going on loan. There's some recruitment here and there, but I agree he wasn't what he was still. But you lose someone like Conte, Kovac. You lost a prem caliber in Chelsea as well. So
yeah. I would say that I see Liverpool as the runner-up in the Prem, mainly because of the lack of European football, and I do think that I would hope for their sake, and this pains me to say as well because I'm a Man United fan, because I think Klopp must have something up his sleeve with Trent going up to midfield. I think you've seen Jota playing somewhat deeper down in midfield. I think you can move people around in that squad. They're quite versatile in that sense, but I think the squad depth is phenomenal at Man City, and I think that's going to edge it for them, really.
And that's 1.8. You can give me the fractional, but it's 1.8 to win the title, so it's almost a value bet. Like you wouldn't call that a value bet, but if what's your next best price then? Arsenal is 6 times the money, Liverpool 9, United 12.
I mean, I got a bit. I mean, I try not to read into pre-season as much as possible. I remember when United had a really good pre-season a few years ago when we beat Real Madrid and beat the MLS All-Stars by 7 or whatever it was, which isn't much of a challenge. But I remember going into that season thinking, yeah, we're going to mop up this year, sign Di Maria, and then lo and behold, Van Gaal's pass football was probably the worst I've ever seen. So it's tough to read into it, but Chelsea did look pretty good. So we'll see. Poch has obviously got a point to prove, I think, after he spelled PSG. I think the biggest one for us to tackle as a group today is the top 4 race.
Well, we've kind of gone through the main ones already, right? With City, Arsenal, and then Liverpool, United, Chelsea, potentially needing to add some players in there.
Yeah.
I really like the look of Villa this season. Whether that's enough to push them into top 4, I'm not sure. But they've brought in like Pau Torres. He's Champions League caliber player.
Great signing.
They brought in Moussa Diaby, very good player, and Tielemans for a bit more squad depth as well. I think that's great, and they still have a couple of weeks maybe to make another signing. Who knows? You have Newcastle again. You're adding European competition. I think it's going to be tough for them to get top 4.
Yeah. Although the signings haven't really blown me away either for Newcastle.
But now is a good player, but I mean historically Serie A players haven't adapted that quickly to Premier League. So
in a position where it's kind of make or break, and he's playing. He's a number 6 essentially, number 8, who's going to come into a team that presses very high, style of play which might be quite hard to adapt to coming from Italy. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I think he's soon to be world class. He was the heart and soul of the Milan team who won the Serie A when no one expected them to. Mm-hmm. I think, to your point, we weren't really impressed by Newcastle signings last year, and I think that's the way he's doing it. That's the way they're doing it. They're not doing the when they the money was poured to the club. We heard about the Neymars and the this and the that, and they've done it differently. And
while I agree,
it worked so far.
Yeah, while I agree, I think they massively overperformed last year.
I think so too. And I see, for me, Newcastle, who's going to score their goals? And I know they've got Callum Wilson. I think he's a great striker. I think Alexander Isak, what a quality player he looked to be last year. But with the addition of European fixtures, and I think both of them somewhat injury prone, and then behind that you've got Joe Linton, who's more of a huffing and puffing, hard-working midfielder.
Yeah.
San Maximan has left, who was, by the way, I think, an absolutely sensational player to watch on his day. So entertaining.
I think that's a huge loss as well, even for the locker room, the way he was, the fans, the relationship he had. That's a huge loss. Yeah.
And I think you've added Harvey Barnes and yes, Tonali, but then is Almiron going to perform as he did last year? I think massive overperformance
in those 3-4 months.
Yeah, exactly. And then who's there to score their goals?
I think he needs another comment from Grealish to who would be the 4 picks on your radar.
I mean, the straightforward ones are City, Arsenal, Liverpool. That's the 3 ones you put in there in the top 4 or top 6, and then United, Chelsea, Newcastle. That would be the top 6. Now, if you want to remove one and put others, we talked about Villa.
Chelsea is the 4th team.
Really?
In the top 4?
Yeah, not right now, but it looks like they're continuing to invest. They've trimmed down their team from last season. I think they got rid of 12 first-team players or something. They'll buy someone else. I mean, Dusan Vlahovic is linked there. He didn't have the best season at Juventus, but I think if you can feed him, he'll score a lot of goals.
Plays in a very negative setup with Allegri.
Yeah.
I think signing. I mean, he just got a bit more injured, but Nkunku is a quality signing.
He is.
Quality signing.
They brought back other players as well, like Levi Colwell's back from loan. He was fantastic at Brighton last season.
I was gutted they didn't sell him, to be honest. He looks a top player.
Yeah.
And obviously left-sided centre-back, could he potentially be one for the Euros?
And Mudryk can't be as bad as what it was after he signed. You can't buy someone for, £82 million.
I will get Mudryk this. But if you're going to look at this then, so you have 6 teams to put in the top 6. They're all below 150. And then who's left out is Brighton, Villa. Those are the following ones on there. We spoke about Villa.
Yeah.
Some people are going to speak about Tottenham. I don't think Brighton can keep what they did last year. I mean, it was amazing.
With Europe as well.
I think.
With European football as well. That's
If
going
they
to be
do,
really
it's
tough.
Amazing, but
For me, I have Chelsea as number 8. I know that's a big shout, but I take it as so much flux for me.
It depends.
Yeah.
If they're able to invest in a few more quality players, then I think top 4 could
Sure.
be within their reach. Right now, I think they look too thin in midfield. I agree with you.
The thing is, they're buying all these young talents from Brazil and wherever, from France, loaning them to Strasbourg. I can't keep track of who they've signed and who they haven't signed. Because
the list is endless, isn't it?
so there's still this mad strategy of just sign all these kids and kind of hope. They still got the ones from last year. So last year they signed Charney from Aston Villa. Didn't even have a look in. They signed Amari Hutchinson from Arsenal, gone on loan to Ipswich. So I'm like, what are they going to do? That's why they need 2 sporting directors.
Also, Lukaku.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's Vlahovic to come by. And now again, with Nkunku was supposed to be injured for a little bit, and that period has extended. That might force them to make the move because Nkunku, while not playing as a pure striker, was quite a goal scoring machine for when he was in the Bundesliga. So. Yeah, I agree with you, but I also think that Chelsea they've always been like this. Even when they won the league 15 years ago, they had 100 players on loan. So, and people said, they had De Bruyne and they had this, and it didn't stop them winning the Champions League. Didn't stop them winning the league with Ancelotti, with Mourinho, with
one game a week.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
They're not Europa League. They're not Europa Conference League. Even they didn't even manage that last season.
That's why I might even back them to win a cup. Actually, that's a domestic cup. That would probably I didn't look into those prices, but probably to get silverware, that's their easiest way to do it this year.
Yeah,
that's why I kind of look at Brighton, and Brighton have got a bit of a soft spot for them because of what they've done in such a short space of time. Same with Brentford. A lot of respect to Brentford, but for Brighton to European football is incredible. So what will be interesting is how they maintain that fighting on 2 fronts, if they can do that, and then on top of that, if they lose a player like Caicedo, that's Caicedo and McAllister that's gone in one window. That's a tough. We saw what happened with Southampton less than 10 years ago. Could they be another?
Because it looks like they're getting Kudus from Ajax, so I think
But
that's a good McAllister replacement.
He's a player that kind of. I saw him in the World Cup, looked really good. Then for Ajax, I don't know. What is his best position? Is he number 10?
I'm not sure. He plays centre
weird,
midfield, right wing, striker.
When I've seen him in midfield, he kind of reminded me of like the legs and the physique of like a young Michael Essien. And then I'm like, he plays everywhere. So what is his best position? Who's he replacing? Is he replacing Caicedo? Is he replacing?
I think he's replacing McAllister. Although they brought in Dahoud and Milner as
free
well.
transfer.
Milner, quality signing for the dressing room, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Absolutely
And
quality.
the leader.
And the league test, but
Him and Lallana.
Brighton is 275 to be in the top 6, so that's your next best thing basically after the ones we mentioned, and there's one that everybody keeps avoiding is Tottenham as well. No, Villa is further down. We keep avoiding Tottenham just because I guess it became kind of the Premier League banter that they never do it, but right now they have a Kane situation. What does that open? What does that not open?
I just think there's so many question marks with Tottenham.
Yeah.
Because you
And
have
coach.
a manager come in who's like the polar opposite to what's been there before in terms of Conte and Mourinho, right? This guy is a really attacking style manager.
Mm-hmm.
Can he make his defenders adapt? Dyer playing in a low line versus a high line is like day and night, right? When I've seen him play in a high line, he's been terrible in the past. Kane will stay. Lloris is being swapped out for a younger goalkeeper.
That's an interesting one as well. They signed this keeper from, was it Empoli?
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting one because, again, that transition from Italian football, this is one of my fears about Onana, which will probably come up at some point. That transition from Italian football to English football is huge for a goalkeeper. And again, like I was saying for Tonali, to play in midfield. And again, if I'm going to touch on another one, for Højlund, although Højlund's very young, so he's only been in Italy for a year. So it's going to be interesting to see how these new signings adapt. And obviously the Kane factor, if they can keep him, they're in with a shout with, you know, achieving whatever. But I also think Maddison's a great signing.
Yeah, I think he's going to create a lot. He's going to score a lot. I'd be surprised if he didn't have 10 assists, 10 goals this season.
I think so too, but I think he would sort of nullify some of his quality because he's obviously got a great right foot from set pieces, which to find Kane with that, Kane had an unbelievable goal scoring season last year, obviously in the shadow of Haaland, but he scored a lot of goals with his head. Yeah. And I think with the right foot of Maddison, he could easily score 25 goals and provide 10 assists, whatever. Yeah. Will he be able to assist as much if Kane leaves? Like, is he going to find Son in the same way? Whatever else Kulisevsky? I'm not sure. I think it sort of alters their way of playing so much.
But also, let's be honest, if Kane leaves, you need a big signing after that.
But it's Tottenham.
Everyone's going to know they have the cash as well. It's in my opinion, they have to keep Kane for the rest of this season because with a new manager, you know, it's just chaos with you guys because everyone's going to know that they've got 100 million in the bank.
It feels like it's too late now.
So that's it. And one of the considerations of this season is, unlike last year, which was a bit one of a kind with that World Cup in December, this time there's a Euros at the end of the year. Do you gamble the starting position? You know, of course Kane would start even if he went to Bochum, but we'd argue that. Sorry if you're listening. Do you take such a big risk, Kane or someone else? Do you take such a big, like all these upcoming discussions, people factoring in that there's a competition at the end, and for some players that might be the last one, and so on. So this is also in the thought process. Unlike an odd year when there's nothing at the end of the season and you can take a gamble. So I think this will be to watch. But yeah, so if I listen to you guys, when Niklas has Chelsea way out of the top 6, puts in, I mean, the one we mentioned earlier, Villa, which is 375 to be in the top 6. So this is maybe where we'll get bantered on all season. I rate Villa so high. I love Diaby. Yeah. I think they're going to do so well. Yeah. So
I think I've got on that point, and let's stop banging the villain drum too much because again that can definitely come back to bite us.
It will.
But I think I've definitely gone for the over 58.5 points as well, which I think looks appetizing at 185.
Yes.
Yeah. And the goal line as well, I think 54 and a half, I think is
Go Villa apparently.
So we've obviously touched on who we think could challenge the Man City team the most. We've touched on top 4, although not really putting in any particular order. I think it's a bit of a mishmash of ideas at the moment. I don't think anyone wants to throw their hat completely in the ring of predicting the top 4, although
happy to do it.
Louis said that he sees Chelsea getting in there. So whose expense would that be? Who would be dropping out?
For me, United at the minute. I think you have... I mean, it depends a bit on how good Højlund actually is from the start. He probably only has, 6 months where he was starting every game for Atalanta before coming in. Is he injured at the minute as well?
He's injured. He's going to be away for the
first 3 or 4 games. You have those things. I don't really think if you start Rashford as a striker from the start of the season, that hasn't really worked in the past.
It'd be Rashford or Sancho by the sound.
But it could... I mean, United have a good team. I'm not saying that. I think Garnacho is going to be phenomenal this season. As long as he gets the chance, he'll be great.
He looked unreal in pre-season. Yeah. He didn't play too much, but in that game against Lons looked phenomenal.
Andres Pereira used to be really good in pre-season.
Yeah, the pre-season pillow. Although,
I'm old enough so that back then we didn't look at pre-season because we didn't have social media and anything. So your season starts on match day 1. I don't want to hear about some hat tricks in an MLS stadium.
No, it doesn't matter.
To me, that's momentum, but it helps a bit psychologically, but it doesn't mean much.
So I think one thing with Man United, which obviously it's a whole topic as a fan as well, it's the Mason Greenwood. Will he come back to the squad?
And will he come back the same? Is another question, because we saw how the kid was phenomenal before the controversy. You know, if he does come back, which rumours flying around he will. Don't say that you heard that from me. I'm just quoting rumours. Yep. That, you know, will he be the same player? You know, that's a lot to go through on both sides. You know, spending a year and a half out, you're going to have some ring rust. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm quietly confident about top 4 for United. What I don't think we'll do is we'll challenge for the title this year. I think it's a bit too soon. But what I will say is a caveat to that. This is the one season where I've gone in with very little expectation. A couple of years ago when we signed Ronaldo, Sancho around in one window, that season I was like, yeah, we're going to challenge for the league. Last season Ten Hag was new, so I didn't really know what to expect again. But this season I'm like, you know what, he's put a team together now, but let's see if they can go and produce.
I think Mason Mount's an interesting one for United, because where do you place him? Because I think Bruno's going to play that behind the striker, right?
Yep.
So do you play Mason Mount deeper? And when he has played deeper for Chelsea, I always feel like they were exposed in midfield.
Yeah.
Just because he doesn't have the same defensive capabilities. But then you have Casemiro, and he's mops up everything.
So I put Mount higher than Fernandes just based on what you just said. But I think objectively United is almost the most stable they've been in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's a follow-up
100%.
versus last season, there's a recruitment where you need and not names and stuff. Because that
it's
recruitment was sexy though when you said, I'm a PSG fan, so I know about sexy recruitment. but this one makes sense.
Yeah.
Ten Hag looks like he decides what's going on, which unlike a lot of our clubs,
100%.
it's quite a luxury.
This is the first time without Ed Woodward, who would make
So-
signings that, the Falcaos, the Di Marias, Schweinsteiger. I remember the guy saying,
Oh, what a player.
what a player, but we
Yeah.
signed him when he had no knees left. With Woodward, it was a riff. Yeah.
So that was
If
just-
anyone's going to blame the Glazers, he's as much to blame.
For me, you have the most stable summer and like kind of continuity from a season to another.
Yep.
Will that translate in results? That's another topic. But I think
I think we're the biggest. I think United are the biggest unknown of those. Maybe United and Chelsea are the biggest unknown of that top four. But just if we can quickly recap, if we could have 1 to 6 from each of us.
Okay.
So I'll start with Niklas, as he's the one directly in front of me.
Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United, Villa, Newcastle.
So I'd go City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Villa, probably.
it's tough. So first of all, I can't say the same thing that they just said. Otherwise, it looks
No,
not controversial enough.
I think you need to.
I think it's hard to have also. I mean, I'll say City top for sure. 2, 3. Arsenal, Liverpool, United. I don't know which to put first. I mean, probably gonna Arsenal second, Liverpool, United third, Liverpool fourth. This is tricky, boys. Chelsea, but that could completely backfire. And then, as much as I love my Villa positioning, can they do it? Yeah, Villa 6 maybe. Just because some teams were going to play Champions League or Europe that they weren't meant to.
Yeah.
But on a pure PL squad, I think Newcastle will be above Villa. But
They can. I think it's close.
yeah.
It's really tough this season.
And you know also how much of it get decided on Boxing Day when they play like 17 games in 1 week and all of a sudden your momentum is gone. So you have some dudes you have some teams being really good up until Christmas and then an injury and this and that and all of a sudden you drop 9 points.
Yeah.
I really like it. It's just a lot more gamble and that's why I stopped playing fantasy Premier League as well.
I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, all of a sudden your guy is benched for 3 weeks while the other guys played 3 games. Anyway, not the topic.
Yeah.
Relegation.
We're not doing fantasy football this year. I haven't even done my top 6 predictions yet.
Oh, my bad.
Just skipping the
I
host.
thought you said United.
So I'm going to go, City, Arsenal, United, Liverpool, and then I'm going to go Chelsea 5th.
Okay.
And then 6th, I'm going to go, just to be controversial, because no one's mentioned them, Tottenham 6th.
So and you have Newcastle 7.
Newcastle 7.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to say
Not
Villa
even-
7, Newcastle 8.
Newcastle.
Eddie Howe's going to be sacked, that's for sure.
He overachieved last season. I think he's got credit in the bank. He'll survive. He'll be fine.
Right.
Fair. So we're going to go on to our next topic, which is the relegation scrap. So
This is always a lot more fun.
this is going to be
Yes.
fantastic because obviously we've now got Luton in the league. There's some controversy around their stadium. I don't even think it's going to be ready for the first few weeks of the season. What a story though, Luton. Eh?
Yep.
Just
I love these stories of the little Cinderella. The team
yeah,
coming
I
in,
love
like,
it as well.
I think it's
love
super
it as
cool.
well.
I think they can get a boost from the fan, from the thing. I don't see them staying up.
No.
But
they're just there for the journey. You know?
Yeah,
They're just there.
but watch teams taking them for granted as well. I mean, it's a football game, 90 minutes, anything can happen.
Who do we see as the 3? So I think Luton's probably going to be on everyone's list.
Yeah, we'll have Luton.
I think potentially Sheffield United.
They look awful.
20th.
They're selling Sander Bergen now as well. It looks
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
I mean,
Really?
Yeah.
To Burnley as well.
They don't look like they're investing much.
Right.
They look so poor. I mean, at 133, Luton's no value, but I think at 165, Sheffield United might be
Fine.
That's a good. That's
worth a
worth.
decent.
That's worth sticking on, right? Because I can't see him staying up.
I didn't know that they were selling it to Burnley. Because I have Burnley under 41 points.
Yeah.
I think they're
Or
not-
Burnley relegated, which would be higher, 3.2 times the money. But I think it's, maybe I'm biased, it's always that team that always kind of stays and you wonder how they stayed up. And I think this time Burnley will go down.
I think it
But it's
could
not
be...
Sean Dyche.
No, it's not.
It's not him anymore. Yeah.
No, but the thing with Company, though, I still feel there's a bit of unknown with him because I look at his job that he did at Anderlecht, and he didn't do a great job there. And obviously, Burnley did very well last season in the Championship, and I'm not discrediting the Championship because it is a hard league to get out of. But I still think there's like an element of let's see what he's really got.
Yeah.
The positives there is that they're investing, right? As a team, that always kind of reflects well on the team when they play, at least in the early parts of the season when, things are kind of forming. And, maybe...
That's a fair point.
So I think,
So would you put in
for me, they'll be okay. Well, I've got like a list of teams that I think could potentially join that. I think like...
Sheffield is there for you.
So Sheffield United are there, and Luton are there. And then you've got... I can go through the ones that I kind of think are going to be around the bottom. So Bournemouth...
Forest?
There's a bit of a risk replacing Gary O'Neill with someone from Rayo Vallecano. I'm not saying it's going to turn out bad, but you had someone who actually, overperformed last season. So risk there. I think Everton looked awful last season. Very dependent, I think, on Calvert-Lewin staying injury-free.
Oh, that's not even. That's not gonna happen.
I just can't see where the goals are going to come from if he's not there.
Yeah.
Dele Alli resurgence.
Maybe.
I don't know what to think about that. I also, sorry to interrupt on that, but I have Calvert-Lewin. Like, he haven't had a full season in 2 years.
No, exactly.
And he actually, sorry to plug my little individual bet, but he is on what? Over 6 goals at 180. 6 sounds a lot, but he hasn't had a full season in 2 years. There's a Euros in June. He was the backup for England.
Yep.
He was up and coming. Can he be the guy for them this year?
If he plays, if he gets at least 25 games this season, I'd
Stays
say
healthy.
they definitely stay up. And he probably gets the goals as well.
Yeah. That's a fair,
And then my last two that I'm looking at is Crystal Palace. Just again, I don't see where the goals are going to come from with Zaha leaving, potentially Olise going as well.
Zaha's already gone, right? So
Yeah, he's gone. But I think they'll probably stay up still. But the one I think is going to go down with Luton and Sheffield United is Wolves.
And that's 4 times the money.
So they look so thin at the minute. I mean, they've gotten rid of Jimenez, Ruben Neves, Nathan Collins, and Moutinho, all gone from the team.
in one hit as well.
Adama Traore as well, but I don't know if we count him as an important player. I mean, he's a beast. But their manager is the favourite to get sacked as well at 180. I can't see where the goals are going to come from there.
Yeah. We've got a first game of the season, so you know what's going to happen, don't you?
Yeah. They're gonna
Burnley playing City as well.
Yeah.
I think Forest will be okay, even though they were close to the bottom last year.
Yeah.
Really impressed with their transfers.
I think
though.
there's probably there's worse teams at the
Yeah.
moment than Forest. I think if you look at the teams that have come up, I think 2 of them are potentially bankers to go down, and then I think it's anyone's game.
Yeah.
Somehow Fulham is not too far from that in the prices. They're almost at the same price as Wolves.
That's another team I think played well above themselves last season.
They did,
Also, Mitrovic might be leaving, right? So that's a huge loss in terms
Well, that's
of
not
number
less
of
yellow
goals.
cards though, but
Yeah.
21 yellow cards and 2 red cards, Mitrovic.
But I think they'll be okay.
21 yellow
in the
cards
end.
last season.
Unbelievable. I have him to get a card in the first game. We'll get to that.
Entertaining player.
Yes.
Absolute guaranteed entertainment from him.
Do you know what?
But
He's
also-
been around for years. I didn't realise he's only on 25, 26. I remember him being at like Newcastle, and I'm thinking this guy's in his 30s now. He's only like... he looks quite old as well.
Yeah.
But he always looked old.
Yeah.
Just that style.
I didn't realise that he's only in his mid-20s. So
Phenomenal
there's value
player,
there.
but
Yeah.
needs a cooler head to do anything, and in probably that's why no one higher ever bought it.
Yeah, probably.
Because he has the feet for it, but probably not the head.
Yeah.
Definitely not the head, at least right now. But
Scores a few headers though.
Oh,
he
yes.
does.
So yeah. Who are the three to go down?
Luton, Sheffield United. Those were the easy ones.
I think we've all got those two.
They're the below 2 price. Yeah, we all got these.
I would say Bournemouth.
Interesting.
I'll go Wolves as the last team. They look terrible.
That's a good shout.
Well, even though I have my underline on Burnley that I'm quite a fan of, I still think that someone will do worse than them. I mean, Luton and Sheffield, but probably Bournemouth. I mean, Wolves. You were telling me about Wolves. I didn't look into that, but yeah.
Someone who is going to appear on the podcast in the near future actually give West Ham as a tip, and that's a team that we spoke about before the podcast kicked off, and we didn't actually touch on.
To be relegated.
Potentially.
Really?
I mean, someone has them as a tip to be in the top 10 as well, so that shows you
the contract.
The range.
They're really thin though, so I can see why someone said that. Is that they're really thin. They're going to play Europa League this season.
Without.
I just think that
now they're bringing in Edson Alvarez for Declan Rice, but beyond that, they haven't brought in anyone. The squad's as thin as it was last season.
I don't think that's be bad because you just get kicked out of the Europa League by October and it's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think it'd be bad enough to go worse than the guys we talked about.
People forget,
I think
they were atrocious in the league last season.
they were. Conference League.
I feel like people forget how bad they were, especially the first sort of 6 months. They were terrible.
Yeah.
You know what they say: if you're lost at sea and there's sharks, you don't need to outswim the shark. That's the guy next to you. So you know, it's about beating.
That must be a French one. I've never heard that.
I've never heard that.
No,
Oh, man, it's
no.
quite famous one. But yeah, I don't think that won't be worse than these guys.
I also think that we spoke about sexy transfers, sexy football and stuff. West Ham this season will be the antithesis of sexy football. I don't think I'll watch a single West Ham game that isn't against Man United.
Are you talking Stoke 2002?
This is even worse when it comes to entertainment value. Honestly.
Speaking of Stoke, and obviously on the subject of relegation, Derby County have the record of lowest points total.
Yeah.
They have 9 points.
I believe it was 9 points.
Yeah.
No.
Do you think
single digits?
Yeah.
Do you think that could be broken this season?
To be fair, this is where I found value with Luton, because under 29.5 points was 185 or 180 thereabouts. I think that for me is the bet I'll go for when it comes to Luton.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean,
I like the sound of that.
Bournemouth over 38.5 points.
Oh, no.
Well, the under is 172.
Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah.
Did you get your final three in? Did you get your...
I have the same first two as you. And I think probably Bournemouth as well.
So my three will be the two that we've discussed, so Luton and Sheffield United.
If one of them stays up, guys.
If one of them next season, I'll probably get a job somewhere else as well. So the final pick, I'm trying to think of someone who's... You know what?
Yeah, the price.
I would love to say Crystal Palace.
All right.
I would love...
But then that's 8 times the money if you do that. And of course, gamble responsibly, everyone. But this is a prime tip, like a prime tip, 8 times the money.
Do you know what it is? It's because they constantly they finish in that obscurity of like 10th every season, and I think last season it was fairly close when Roy just came in.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, you know what? They haven't really signed anyone of great importance. They signed a Brazilian kid that I've never heard of. From pulling up trees, are they? Vlosaha, where are the goals coming from?
I mean, yeah, that's the big factor.
There's rumours of Eddie the Eagle from Arsenal.
Oh.
So that's. I don't know if that's just if that's a nickname just me and my mates called it.
I've never had that.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
No, I'm bringing it into the podcast. I didn't think he'd be that significant, but yeah, I think Palace are a good shout. I think.
So that's your third.
I get a lot of stick from my Palace mates whenever United whenever United lose. So it'd be nice to give them a bit of stick, you know.
You also seem to have a lot of mates, just saying.
Oh,
Arsenal mates, Crystal Palace mates.
So that's our relegation picks.
What place?
So just to, obviously we've covered off relegation, but who do we kind of fancy to come up next season from the Championship? And then we'll go to outright. So the Championship, as I've touched on before, one of the I maintain it is one of the most exciting leagues to watch, because anyone that watches football knows that it's a brutal season. You have 46 games. You then have the playoffs, and anyone's game for it. Like there's a point where you could be 10th, but you could be 3 points off second place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could be at the bottom, but you could be 6 points off 10th place. It is the most I love it.
And it's cruel as well. It's cruel.
Oh, it's you know, how many times have we seen, you know, teams that were, say, third place but with, you know, equal points to second place, and then they'll play the sixth place on the playoffs and
they lose the first game.
They're out. Yeah, so brilliant league to watch. Obviously, we've seen some giants go down from last season. So we saw Southampton go down, we saw Leeds go down. So and obviously Leicester, who won the Premier League in 2016. So 3 huge teams, really. Although Leeds, you know, haven't been great in the last, say, 20 years. So who do we see coming up? So obviously we see Southampton that kicked off with a win.
So odds-wise, Leicester is favourite in front of Southampton and Leeds. And then there's a big gap to the next one, which is Ipswich. So it's almost like price-wise, but obviously that might be impacted already. Those 3 are the obvious picks.
So Ipswich only just came up from League One, and they've got a good young manager in Kieran McKenna.
And then the other ones are the eternal, you know, lift up and down teams: Bourel, Norwich, Watford. They've been in and out the Prem for the past 15 years, come and go. And that's probably someone who might not have a great season, but as you just said, comes the playoff, you get 2-3 wins in a row at that period, and boom, you're up. So
and there's a lot about momentum in the Championship as well, right? You don't necessarily need to be in the top 3-4 to challenge at Christmas. You know, even if you're 10th, you can probably go, okay, there's only about 7 points up to the playoff places, or even to the top 2. So
you have a good early spring run, like March, April, few wins. People will drop points. So I think, I think Leicester is probably...
Leicester and I think Southampton will be the ones to be fearful of. Leeds, they lost like half their team. And they're in a bit of disarray in terms of getting players in. So I can't see. I think Leeds are going to be trapped for a couple of seasons, to be honest. You can see them getting bullied.
Yes, on the ball they looked really good, but then, you know, they get bullied.
That people have the assumption about levels between leagues, but if anything, the lower you go, the more physical it gets.
Right, you have Sunderland, really good technical team. They just got bullied off the park, man. They had no chance in that game.
Do you know what? As much as I like nice passing football, playing out from the back, there's still an element where I just like that
crunch.
That horrible, you know, Stoke on a Saturday morning, you know, Wednesday night in Stoke, whatever it is. I still love that. I still think that's part of English football.
But that's deeply enrooted in your football in England compared to a Serie A or, you know, Spain, or to a degree French, which is probably more defensive, a bit stronger in terms of playing on the man. But yeah, that's part of English football. And I guess when you go to those lower levels, it's even more in there, because that's how the guys are coming up.
Although you are starting to see a lot more teams you know, in the lower leagues that are starting to play, you know, from the back and have keepers that can play as good as someone's central midfielder. So you're seeing the impact there of you know, Premier League standards. So it is interesting to see. So yeah, I guess my picks for coming up would be Leicester, Southampton. I'm gonna go
third one stuff.
I'm gonna go Middlesbrough. I know they lost their opening game against Millwall, but I like Michael Carrick. I like what he's done. I'd like to see them come up. I think they're quite a well-supported club. One team that's worth touching on is Birmingham, who recently got new ownership. Tom Brady being a minor investor. But then I read a stat the other day that Birmingham City are have been the longest team in the Championship.
15 years, was it?
13 years.
13.
I remember when they were in the Prem. God, I'm old.
Yeah, I remember when they won Carling Cup at the time. Obafemi Martins.
Yeah, he probably was called something else at the time.
He was 23 for about 20 years.
Yeah.
His age just never moved. I remember we played Pro Evo and it would just be 23 the whole time.
Wasn't one of my championship manager eternal signings, man. 20 pace, 20 acceleration, just got past the goalkeeper.
Speaking of minority owners, did you see Russell Westbrook sitting at Ellen Road as a minority owner of Leeds the other day?
I did not see that.
Did not know that.
That changed your prediction.
I still think it'll be Middlesbrough. I think Middlesbrough will be the best placed within the Championship. Ipswich is a good shout, although they're a bit of an unknown quantity. Obviously, coming from League One, that'd be a massive jump to get back to back promotions.
Again, it's the momentum, though. Can they carry the momentum from last season into this season? And then, you never know.
I know they also broke the record for clean sheets, so I think most amount of hours without conceding a goal.
Yeah.
So that was
interesting.
A nice feat to add in there. So yeah, Nicholas, who are you're free to come up?
Southampton, Ipswich, Watford.
Nice.
I'm Southampton. I've backed them top 2 as well to 375. I think that's a good bet.
Good bet.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to back, then you might as well do top 2 rather than to go up because, like you said, you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. Anyway.
100%, and the top 6 is too low.
Yeah, and I watched their opening game, and I think their team is probably the team that started there, with maybe exception of Ward-Prowse. We see what's going to happen there is probably the team that's going to stay there, as opposed to like Leicester, who had quite a few players that you think maybe he'll go somewhere like Dewsbury Hall and I can't remember who else now, but like Patson Daki and Acho, all those are kind of linked with moves. I think Southampton will stay the same, and they have Armstrong, Adams, and Teller, who have all scored bucket loads in the Championship.
Yeah. Armstrong was prolific before he joined, weren't he?
Yeah. But beyond that, I'd probably say Leicester, and then I don't know the last one. I mean, Middlesbrough, I kind of agree with you, but then there's rumours about Akpom leaving this week, and I think then suddenly that's a huge loss, right? So I don't know. I'd have to pick a club out of the air. The one I definitely don't see going up is QPR. They're going to be rock bottom. I think they're garbage, man.
It's the random QPR there.
They're 51 times the money to be top 2, so
yeah, they're garbage. They're going to be bottom 2, guaranteed.
I mean, maybe you'll see him later on the pod. We have a Plymouth fan, but I'll let him say his piece at that time. No, I think Leicester, Southampton, and then just go finger on the board and say Norwich. It could have been someone else.
Norwich.
I went finger on the board. I mean, anything can happen. And again, just from what we said at the beginning of the segment on Championship, you could have Watford arriving and they're really cool, and then lose that 1-0 game in the playoffs as well. So it's so brutal. I mean, it is the most expensive game in football, right?
So something that you guys, I think, will come into your own with in terms of betting and in terms of odds is top goal scorer. And also, just generally, we're going to cover off some outrights.
We're back on the Prem now, right? Not
no, we're not doing Championship top goal Saturday.
E-Bags play.
Yeah. So, who do we fancy for top goal scorer?
I mean, let's get this one out of the way, right? Erling Haaland is everyone's pick because it's boring, but I'll be contrarian because I think...
Here we go.
Here we go.
Sauce.
No, I think for me is... And this is it banks on the fact that I think Haaland will pick up an injury. I just think that's going to happen, and that is my that's my underlying assumption for what I'm going to say, and that is I think Harry Kane's going to win the Golden Boot if he stays in the Prem. Otherwise, I'm just going to follow the list and the second order. Mo Salah
is next on the list.
Yeah.
But I agree with you on the Haaland bet on one thing, and also Pep loves a weird rotation. I mean, Jesus left because of that.
Yeah.
That Argentinian kid as well.
Alvarez.
He's been complaining that he's not playing enough.
Yeah.
Julian Alvarez. I actually have him. It's a question I had for you guys. He's over under 11.5 goals. What do you guys think? I don't think he would hit them, but then again, he can play 2 games and score 5 goals against Burnley or whoever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I think Haaland is not enough value for money.
No, exactly.
People are going to say it's a safe 172. I would say you have more to lose than to win then.
Indeed.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Harry Kane has done it year in, year out. But obviously, if he stays.
And that's 8 times the money.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden there's
Eight times.
there's a bit more upside to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wait.
Salah is 9 times, and then after that you go Rashford in the double digits, and that's never
Yeah.
gonna happen. But
No. And I think there is one thing around the top goal scorer, and that is penalties. Now, for me, Tottenham, Harry Kane is like, he always scores a pen. Whenever I check, Harry Kane has scored a pen. Oh my God, he scored a pen again. How many pens does this guy get? He's quite a good bet from the spot, but
and it's not Holland taking them in City.
that's my question. Will he?
I don't know.
Is it going to be De Bruyne?
It was De Bruyne. It was
Gundogan last year.
Gundogan.
Who's
Haaland
left?
will take them.
Yeah.
I think you
pretty
think he'll take
confident.
them.
He
Yeah.
took most of them last season, except for I think once where he gave it to Marius or twice. But
I think
Yeah.
Gundogan had a few. De Bruyne
Yeah.
had a few.
yeah, I think he took the majority though. Haaland.
Okay.
I think again they also want him to be top scorer. He wants to be top scorer. You know, they want to support him. I'd be surprised if he didn't
Fair.
take the pens.
Fair.
But he had a lot of games last year.
I think he will be top goal scorer. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
betting wise, is not probably a fun bet or a
Agree.
My long shot is Darwin Nunes.
Yeah.
19 times the
19
money.
times the money.
He
Or-
can't be as wasteful as he was.
No,
last
exactly.
Surely.
Because he gets to so many chances.
Last season, high expectations, got into some phenomenal positions. I remember, I think it was it Leicester, where he had like
Oh yeah.
5 or 6, like clear cut.
Yeah.
I think he scored one.
And he
again.
put those away for Benfica before. he
Yeah,
came
yeah,
back,
yeah.
So that's my thinking. The
Well,
other
I'm
other
not-
extreme long shot is Ollie Watkins to be top scorer. On
So-
pens as
Yep.
well.
What are the odds for Ollie Watkins?
34 times money.
That is a big number.
I mean, those are value. I don't
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
think they're going to happen.
Let's do assists.
Let's also cover something, and this is to all people who've been, I don't know, brainwashed by fantasy football. Assist is not you happen to touch a ball and then you touch 7 opponents and then you score a goal. That's
Well,
not
you
My favorite, Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
And you see why. I do think that these, and what banter me at the end of the season again, as big as he gets, I think he's running out of steam physically a bit.
Yeah.
I saw
Gets
that.
injured.
I saw that in the World Cup. Couldn't finish it. We've probably seen the best of him, and don't get me wrong, he's an amazing, phenomenal player.
Yeah.
Best player in the league last year to me. But can he have again a 15, 20 assist season? I don't think so.
Can he
He's
play as
gonna
many
be-
games?
Yeah, he's going to be rested more.
Yep.
He'll play. You'll start using him on the NBA, playing him in the games that matter.
Yep.
A bit more than all the games. So I think, yeah. And the second favorite is Trent, which is
On
unbelievable.
trend.
Which is
Yeah.
unbelievable. Second favorite.
I see Alyssa on that list,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is another good shout. If he does go to a City or a Chelsea, especially, you know,
Yeah.
which is what's rumoured.
Saka is quite a high price at 13 times the money, but I think he scores too much to have more assists. If he squared them all as a winger and not scored as many, like if he was always passing, cutting back, but because he might have a great season.
I would have thought Ødegaard should be
So he's-
more of a favourite than what Saka is, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
So, and I had the discussion with Niklas. I have in my personal things a question for you guys. Ødegaard is over under 8.5 assists at 185. He had 7 last year, but he had 13 goals. I see him having less goals this season than more assists.
Yeah.
That's my kind of what I see. With Declan Rice backing him up, I see him more as a playmaker than last year. He scored a lot of goals for being, what was it, 13 he scored? Yeah, something like that, 13.
He's got a lot, yeah.
So yeah, that's my Ødegaard at 185 over 8.5 assists. Quite like it.
Who
Okay.
do we have? Did you have one to add there?
No, I think just obviously somewhat biased here, but Bruno, he had the highest
Chance
XA
creation, yeah.
exactly last year, and if they are more clinical in front of goal, I think
Yeah.
Bruno is someone who goes for those audacious passes.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're talking every single set pieces as well, corners and free kicks, right?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
It depends on the range for the free kick. Sometimes it's Rashford.
Yeah.
And I will touch wood, but I think he's had 0 injuries in his career.
Oh,
you
it's
jinxed
crazy.
it. Oh, that's a jinx.
Yeah, sorry
Oh,
everyone,
you
but
jinxed it. Out 7 months for like something
No.
crazy.
yeah.
Let's not Let's not talk about
But
it.
But I think he's a phenomenal assist maker as such.
And I think, Varane, Maguire, you have some quality header players also. Every set piece with United.
So
is
you
a
say
danger.
that, you'd be surprised at the lack of
It didn't happen.
head-picks
Yeah,
goals.
but
It doesn't happen.
it didn't happen on 38 or 50 games. Do it 200 times, and that's
Yeah.
Varane,
Martinez
world champion.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll just go on record as saying that.
But he's not tall enough for the
Another
Premier
podcast.
This is not a United podcast.
No.
Yeah, let's
move
just we'll move on from the
All right.
Martinez banter.
So let's move on to what? What did you want? Some outrights?
We want to talk about
have some player outrights.
we want to talk about the managers.
Right.
Who do you think is going to be first to go? But let's talk about first to go, not before the Premier League starts, because I think Lopetegui could go in the next week or so. So once the Premier League has kicked off, who do we fancy?
So
to
they're
first
more
to go?
result orientated than pre.
Yeah, rather than
Moyes.
I'm on Moyes.
Yeah. But also, how long do you give a coach? Because that's the eternal thing. You sack him after match day 3. Then why didn't you do it in the summer?
So
Or do you go till October?
Yeah, so my thought behind it is that a lot of the teams at the top have either very stable managers or have new managers, unlikely to be... Like, I can't see Spurs sacking their manager early. I can't see Chelsea sacking their manager early. They get Graham Potter 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean,
They did keep
and
Graham Potter
someone
on
is
time.
going to get sacked before it's gone 6 months, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I love Poch, but
Yeah.
that's like...
So and with the Moyes situation at West Ham, there seems to be disagreements with the board and the sporting director around which players to buy. They pulled out the race for James Ward-Prowse.
Mhm.
That for me is like reason enough. He might leave on his own accord. It might not even be sacked. It just he leaves.
It's very rare, for that to happen. But you wouldn't. It's not out of the realms of possibility that could happen. They like to get a nice payoff, don't they? So
Yeah, that's true.
Anyhow.
Eddie Howe.
Oh, dare you,
That's an
man.
interesting one.
He's doubling on his previous predictions.
Yeah.
I just think Newcastle crowd's going to be behind them for the
They-
home games.
especially
For the-
where they've
even
just
if
got
it
champions.
goes-
He's got so much credit in the bank.
Well, here's a scenario for you. Now, I mean, this is a bit of a long shot, yeah, but Mourinho falls out. His club, he becomes available. Newcastle is struggling. All of a sudden, you get the chance to pick up Mourinho in your pursuit of becoming a top-notch club with that money behind you.
It's a very hypothetical situation.
Of course it is, but I need to speculate, yeah? That's why I go with Eddie Howe.
I feel like Newcastle would, if that hypothetical situation was to happen, I feel like Newcastle would want someone a bit, inverted commas, sexier. Someone like a Nagelsmann, or I don't think they'd go for Mourinho. But again,
I'll go back to what I've said earlier. They've been doing it right. Like people, and United fans, every other fan, a lot of people say, they just got the money. They've done it in such a better way than almost all the other clubs that got money, PSG included, to a degree, and Chelsea back then included. They
still spend a lot though.
Right.
With some teams where they get a lot of money, they're not smart.
That's
They're-
my point.
That's true.
In hiring the coach, if hiring the guy, bringing trips, doing that, like
They're hiring hungry or buying hungry players under the age of 25, mostly players who, again, if they don't perform, they could sell them for equal value. It's not a big problem. It's not like you're buying in Aubameyang at 34 years old, who you can't get rid of, basically.
It's true.
So that's why I think they'll be measured in any decision they take. They won't have a knee-jerk reaction. Eddie Howe, fire this, that. I'm not saying it's not going to happen if they really underperform. I'm just saying they're not going to go, let's get Mourinho or do whatever. Like I think they'll be.
I think Howe will be safe.
Sure.
Again, results.
Results driven, of course.
This is what we'll pick up in like
In
6,
a
7
year.
years.
Yeah, when they won the Premier League,
10
you're
years'
like,
time.
what are you on about?
I cannot
Yeah.
wait.
So we're going to go to the match day predictions. So following this podcast, we'll be doing match day predictions and obviously reviewing the previous week. So next week we'll be reviewing the Premier League kickoff. So this week we're going to review the literal kickoff of the Premier League with Burnley, Manchester City.
I mean, I gotta interrupt you here. I gotta ask 2 questions to the pod. Mudryk over 4.5 goals this season. Can you be worse than last year? It's 172 times the money, maybe 116 at 69.
He blanked last season, didn't he?
I know, but
he didn't have an assist or a goal, so he can't be worse than that.
But he was here 6 months and didn't play that much. And Havertz was a semi 9.510. I mean, it was super messy. Like now, you
I
have
agree.
either Lukaku or Vlahovic to a degree, and Kuku's out. Someone has to score the goals. I don't really know some of the recruits that they have, but I just think that this guy, I mean, even in the European competitions with Ukraine, like he is.
Yeah,
He is 5 goals in 38 matches or 35 matches.
Yeah. Over.
Okay, that was my first question.
Over.
And then my second question for you is Callum Wilson, 15.5
Under.
goals. Under?
I don't
in
know.
the Premier League.
In the Premier League, 15.5. That's a very high number. It's 185 either way, over under.
I'd say under.
Two
I
unders.
just wouldn't touch it.
Okay, two unders, one do not touch.
For me, it could go either way.
Okay.
Depends on game time. Depends on
Yeah, because I think
injuries.
Isak will start most games.
Because I think he's a goal scorer, and if he was to be able to play 38 games in a season, he would
So,
go
yeah,
over that line. But he won't play 38
it's
games
one
in a
staying
season.
fit and then it's 2 starting games.
Yeah,
And then one bonus question, yes or no, Kulusevski, 3.5 goals at 185.
yeah, and guaranteed going
Over.
Yeah.
Over as well. And if Kane leaves, get that number up.
Over.
Yeah. All right, thank you. We can go
That's
back
okay.
to match. I needed to check.
Benji's takeover is complete. So yeah, we'll be talking about the Premier League games this weekend. So obviously the league kicks off with Burnley and Manchester City on Friday.
Yep.
We're going to City win, aren't we?
Slim win for City, I'd say.
Slim win.
Slim. By 2? Is that slim?
1 or 2 goals,
Right.
I'd say.
Is that Burnley?
Yeah, that's what I mean. 1 or 2 goals.
I can see it being 2 goals up and then shut down shot.
Yeah,
Just
that's more early.
Yeah.
They kind of
Yeah.
just pass the ball around and spend their time doing that.
Friday night kick-off. Yeah, they
I
just
don't
want to
think
get
it's
the job
going to
done.
be a very good game, to be
No.
honest.
It's the worst time to play these newly promoted teams because
Yeah.
they just bang up for it.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter if we lose. Let's just go all out and show them what we're about. So,
And I love the champion against a really promoted team. It's always
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. That's a nice way to. And
Yeah.
obviously, you've got the Burnley and the company and Man City element there as well. So that's a nice little side story.
You already heard Pep after the Community Shield saying, "Well, we started 2 weeks later than everyone because we finished 2 weeks." I love Pep. Don't get me wrong, but these guys are coming from luxury yachts holiday, while these guys have been staying for 3 months. We're playing City in the first
Yeah.
game, so
Yeah.
we go back to
Yeah,
momentum. We will go back to these things.
City have lost their last 3 domestic games, I believe.
Right.
Or last 4.
I don't think that matters. Sorry.
Just chucking it out there. I've been keeping note, you know, trying to plot their demise. The next game after that is Arsenal, Nottingham Forest. Arsenal at home.
I mean, that's to me,
Going for an Arsenal win.
Arsenal win.
And that's going to be tight.
Yeah. I think
it'll be
they'll
like
win.
I don't think it'll be like a. Well, to be fair, they need to sort their goalkeeping situation out, as in both clubs.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest obviously trying to buy a goalkeeper from Arsenal.
Was
So-
Ramsdale was good in the weekend, right? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the game, if I'm honest.
On a
but-
side note, yeah, it's crazy what's going on with the goalkeeping situation. But I've never really rated Ramsdale. We'll come to that in another podcast because I don't think we have time today.
Because that's a long rant.
That's a long rant. He's just a bit of a flapper. That's what I say. So yeah, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest are trying to sign a goalkeeper from Arsenal. I don't know if they'll get that over the line in time. So I don't know who their first choice goalkeeper is now because they don't have Henderson, they don't have Navas. That'll be interesting. And then we go to the 3:00 game. So Sheffield United, Crystal Palace.
What a game.
That
Banger.
barn stomper that is.
I mean, yeah, it's not one of those games that you'd pay $14.99 for during COVID, at least, when
Definitely
they were
not.
trying to enforce that. So,
Sheffield United at home.
yeah, that just sounds awful.
That's a
Yeah.
draw. I think that's a draw. I reckon.
Yeah.
I can see that being a draw. Bournemouth, West Ham. And Bournemouth at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit of unknown about his new manager. Let's see how he does. I heard he played a very good attacking possession style of football.
true. And they swapped out a few players. Little Clivert's there now. I don't
Yeah.
rate him at all, by the way. I think he's,
Justin? Oh,
Yeah.
I love a little Justin. But yeah, I think those first games.
Timberlake.
are
Right?
I prefer Bieber over this guy.
Oh, I think those first games are not impossible to predict. But yeah, there's so much
Yeah.
stuff we don't know, so much unknown about
There's
it.
a lot
Yeah.
unknown there. I could see that being a bit of not an upset. I could see Bournemouth potentially nicking that.
Yeah.
Corners.
Corners.
That's
Brighton.
what I'd be cheering for.
Yeah.
And Luton, yeah, I can see Brighton.
Brighton winning by a few goals.
Yeah.
Luton on bigger pitch as well. It's not good.
I want to see their first home game, but away it's going to be...
I think they're really going to struggle to get away this season. Could see them losing by 3-4 goals in the opening game.
Yeah.
Everton Fulham.
That's a tough one.
That's a draw for me.
One of them you don't really know what you're going to get, I think.
No.
Everton at home, though.
Yeah. I think Fulham are better.
I got a little bet here, but you know, if you use our bet builder product, Everton Fulham, I have both teams to score. My boy Calvert-Lewin shot on target, and the obvious Mitrovic to get booked. That's for 5 times the money.
Wow.
And you can take Mitrovic to get booked on its own if you want, because as I said, 21 out of, I don't think he played 38 games last year, so it's more than a 50% chance that he gets booked on the season. So yeah.
That's crazy when you think they're not even in Europe and he's getting 21.
And 2 reds.
Yeah.
So
remember one of
meaning
the
that
Reds
you get a ban
in
after
the FA Cup.
You get a ban after every 5 yellows.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So he's got 4 games missed from the yellows and another 2 games missed or 3 from the reds if they're straight. So that's 10 games gone, mate. So he's got 21 cards, 23
if you push
cards.
the ref, then
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, so yeah, I think this game could be tight, or it could be a 2-2 draw.
Is- Speaking of like tight games to predict, these are 2 teams that we've heavily discussed.
Yes.
Newcastle, Villa. At Newcastle.
Oh yes, this one. I jump in with a couple of bets I'm going for in this one. Bet builder, both teams to score.
Yes.
Draw or away, as in Villa to win or a draw. Over 9.5 corners at 480. I like that one. I also like Ollie Watkins to have a shot on target at 170.
So I raise you both teams to score. Diaby shot on target. I love Diaby. And Watkins shot on target. That's a great bet builder. But yours is really good. The corners are a really good pick. I'm going to sprinkle one thing as well. You mentioned about it earlier. Tonali to get a card at 350. Everybody's like, is he soft? He's going to want... He's a hard player. He's going to want to make a point straight away. They talked about him all summer with his missus in the gym saying it's blah, blah, blah. He's going to come in and he's going to show them. Like, I'm sure he's going to give a couple of tackles just to show, show them who he is.
I think that game in general is good for cards.
Yeah.
Depending a bit who the ref will be, but
Yeah.
I mean, you got Emi Martin, like the new rules, right, where you get booked automatically for at all kicking the ball even 2 yards to the side.
From a set
For time wasting as well. So you got players like Emi Martinez. I think Newcastle were notorious for wasting time last season, right, when they were a goal up.
Joe Linton.
Bruno, Tonali,
Yeah.
plenty of players from Villa as well.
100%.
I think, the goal. I think the card line's like 4.5, but you could easily back over 5.5. I think, and then added minutes.
So that's the thing. I was going to add that.
15 minutes per game.
No, that's the thing.
You got 15 more minutes to have a card.
I needed to take us on a little side road that we saw in the Women's World Cup, that we saw in the early games in the Championship, or in the 97 plus 15 Community Shield. We have the World Cup rules. I love them. We know that the rule in, what was it in the Premier League? 54.49 minutes the ball was in play before. 54.49 minutes out of 90. Colina wanted to change this. This means probably more goals. I was going to say like Niklas, more everything. But I think, these last minutes of games, when you're playing in that injury time, things are going to get a bit crazy. So probably when teams are matched like this, more cars, more VAR here and there. So definitely that's a really good thing that we needed to mention. That it's going to be more time in play. There's going to be more football.
Yeah.
That's the 5:30 game on Saturday, so I'm looking forward to
Correct.
watching that.
Highlights of the weekend.
Yeah.
Well, you could argue that the highlight of the weekend is coming up.
Yeah.
Not this one, but the next one. So we have Brentford and Tottenham Sunday. Brentford at home, London derby.
I think that's an
Fancy
interesting
Brentford,
one.
you know.
I fancy
No
Brentford.
Tony.
At home,
Anymore.
no Tony, and Waymark can still cause some problems.
Yeah.
Brentford are just such a hard team to play against at home.
I think for this, I've had a little glance at the bet builder, and I think Spurs are going to be a goal fest wherever they go.
Yeah,
So for me, this is a Spurs win over 1.5 goals. Spurs also over 1.5 cards with Romero in the squad. This for me is something I will always have a look at.
Yeah.
He is an
A
absolute.
lunatic.
He's a lunatic in the back. 450 you get for that one, so I quite fancy that one.
Yeah.
And then the potential highlight of the weekend, Chelsea-Liverpool. 4:30 on Sunday. Chelsea at home.
It just feels like it's two unfinished squads playing each other.
Early on as well, so early that none of them will want to come away with that, with the loss. You know, you could easily see that being a draw. Where they're just going to sit there. Was it? They've not scored against each other for a while, haven't they? There was like a game last season.
I was there last season at the 0-0.
That was
atrocious.
It would not surprise me.
Only 30 minutes of glory.
It would not surprise me if we see another one of those, you know, really tight encounters.
I like what you're saying about no one wanting to lose the game. What's the risk taking? What do you do in that game? A point's better than 0 kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Because you don't want to. Neither team will want to. Where is obviously no team wants to lose a game. Let's get that clear.
I mean, did Luis Garcia even score?
Directly competing against, you take the point. Especially Liverpool, you take the point at Chelsea all day.
Oh yeah, I think Chelsea would have to do more than Liverpool.
They'll be in the home team.
Liverpool and kind of do like.
I mean, I hope they do that because they look so bad defensively. If they
hard defense, yeah, I'm with you on that.
I fancy Chelsea to nick that.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm so not in your camp here. Incredibly bullish on Liverpool. To me, doubling down again.
That's a byproduct of your outright. No, we don't do this here.
Is the classic.
The classic.
Much and easily Monday Night Football.
I think
the
you're going to
floodlight.
smash them 3-0.
The striker.
Yeah, but it's almost a double down in
Wolves
your
doesn't have any strikers.
So that's the thing. I think United is playing as a good team, and as we said earlier, it's just also Wolves to lose this.
Yeah.
And enjoy the rest of your Premier League kickoff.
Thank you.